I'm live, and I'm waiting for Jeff Ballabon, but I don't like to keep people waiting. There's Jeff. Jeff, I'm going to pop you right in. We're going to talk about what we're going to talk about, and then we're going to talk about it.
Hold on.
There's some guy speaking a foreign language.
Yeah. Why do I have Hebrew going on? Stop that. Better?
Better, and you look great.
Feeling great. I mean, fiddling while Rome burns.
Oh, we're getting echo. We're getting echo.
Okay, let me turn off my phone. I don't know what it could be. Nothing else is on.
Good.
Better?
No, we're hearing your speaker's feedback.
Why is that?
Because do you have headphones?
Yeah, but headphones with mic not available so quickly. Give me a second.
Sure. I'm going to give Jeff a second.
Yeah.
I'll do him a favor and take him off stage so that the pressure is off. You know what, Jeff? It's not you. It's on my side. So I'm gonna put on my headphones.
There you go. I am seldom the problem.
First I'm hearing. Okay.
Better?
Jeff, tell the people what it was, the sudden idea that you had that we should talk about this. I'm going to let you run with this.
Sure. I was talking to a friend of mine in Nashville, good, solid American, a refugee from Hollywood who moved out there to raise his kids in normal America, and who, as a result of everything going on, good Christian fellow, decided he was going to fly an Israeli flag alongside his American flag. And this goes back to shortly after October 7th. And I'll just tell you that he started flying it again because of the mounting obvious domestic anti-Semitism more recently. And we're talking about this whole debacle with the immediate notion that Josh Shapiro, Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro, would be a bad choice as a vice presidential pick for Kamala Harris because, in general, Democrats don't really care for the Jews so much, or be a problem with voters, which was not said by some right-wing fanatic. It wasn't said. It was said by CNN, and immediately picked up because they just acknowledged what's true, which is that Jews don't seem to be in favor right now. And
so when you say Democrats, I mean, when people look at the leadership of the Democratic Party, those that aren't Jewish have a child who's married to a Jew, right?
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, that's true.
So what does it mean? What does it mean when you say Democrat?
That's fair.
I'm going to feed you some nothing but softballs, Jack.
No, that's totally fair because let's be very clear about this. I mean, if you looked at the state, if you took a snapshot today, there are a lot more Jewish Democrats in Congress than there are Republican Jews, rather, right? So you can look at a snapshot and say, what are you talking about? But you have to look at the trend. And the reality is that since really before then, but 2018 was a turning point in which the Democrats allowed to bring into their caucus some very openly hostile to Jews, Jewish members of Congress, like Ilhan Omar, like Rashida Tlaib, like the Squad. And simultaneously others, and subsequently were chased out of the party. People who were Democrats of longstanding, like Ted Deutsch and Elliot Engel and others, who they were sort of chased out of Congress, although they might not describe it that way. Now, this trend goes back a long time. The truth is that it starts with Joe Lieberman being a very visible Jew, a Jew who made other Jews uncomfortable. In fact, the Anti-Defamation League attacked him publicly for being too Jewy, for being too religious when he was a vice presidential candidate, too proudly Sabbath observant. Point is, we are in the middle of a shift, but the shift is happening very, very radically and quickly. So let me define what I mean. I don't mean if someone is a registered Democrat, they don't like Jews. God forbid. I don't mean that at all. I mean, there's a moment in time now where unless what I think of as the normals take both parties back in hand, we are set for devastation. The problem is, along the Republicans, this kind of Jew hatred still is along the fringe and is beginning to get mainstreamed by certain figures. It's still kept primarily to the fringe, and the major spokesperson for the party right now, who happens to be Donald Trump, is making very clear that he is on the other side. In fact, he said recently that Israel, the quote is, "The United States and Israel represent the pinnacle of Western civilization. That's what they hate. That's what they're trying to destroy." That's a righteous mindset, as far as I'm concerned. So back to the Democrats. Here's what I see happening over the past several decades. In order to maintain power, I'm not the only one to observe this. Democrats, by and large, don't have a coherent philosophy of governance. Instead, what you see is that it's an appeal to a series of grievances and grievance groups. Therefore, you create this aggregate, a coalition of the aggrieved. The problem is they have friction with each other, because if you're doing is sharing a piece of pie, whether it's reparations or transfer payments or et cetera, then you have to have someone else to be scapegoating who's worse. That's one problem. Another problem is there's a certain limit to how many aggrieved groups you can get in the center. You have to move to the extreme. And what they did very consciously, it seems, a number of years ago, around, I would say during the Obama years, what they did was they reached further towards the extreme, and they started mainstreaming what had previously been just unacceptable in American politics. And obviously the concept of the Overton window, which we could talk about, that shifted dramatically. And now I'll stop talking and you continue if you want to explain.
All right. So the purpose of that discourse then was to frame what Jeff is saying when he talks about, and anyone who is watching this, it is hard for me to imagine that you're not aware of this, because if you follow me, if you follow Jeff, we've been talking about it for years, and sometimes together, mostly separately. It's not, we can't concentrate all our powers in one spot. But things have definitely moved to a very intense level since October 7th.
Yes.
So Jeff had this conversation with his friend who felt inspired by the overt anti-Semitism that he was seeing, to respond to it by flying an Israeli flag.
By the way, can I say this? His next door neighbor, who is a West Point graduate, came over, and he very proudly flies the American flag. And this is shortly after October 7th, the first time he flew the flag. And he said to my friend, "I just want to come over and commend your bravery for doing this." And his wife, West Point grad's wife, said to him, "Aren't you afraid someone's going to vandalize it?" To which my friend said, "That's why I bought two." But he replies that he put it up in his suburban neighborhood in Nashville. He says that he has gotten a series of people just come over to the house, stop by just to say thank you, God bless you, and thanks for standing with the Jewish people. So there is a lot of greatness in this country. And it's against that greatness that we see this coalition. So when I said to him that...
Let me make a point that's very important, and I believe that Jeff agrees with me. I'm not a big fan of people flying the flags of foreign countries in front of their homes.
Yeah.
If it were against the law, if the First Amendment didn't prohibit it, I would have no problem with a law that said, unless you're a consulate or the headquarters of a foreign company or something, the flag you fly is the American flag. And I'm not even talking about, and then also American flag or no flag at all. That would be my rule in the kingdom of Ron Coleman. A, it's not the rule. And B, after October 7th, it's a different statement. And especially for a lot of people who, unlike Jeff and I, don't have, and I don't know anything about your friend here, don't have other meaningfully Jewish content in their lives. They're not religiously observant as Jeff and I are. The attack that they perceived, and this is really where this stream is going to go, the attack that they perceived was not merely, here's a foreign state whose foreign policy we disagree with. For some reason, we couldn't care about the foreign policy of any other country, or the domestic policy, and it happens to be at the Jewish state. The obvious perception to anyone with his eyes open was that the attack was on Jewish people, the Jews.
Yeah.
And now segue back to Jeff.
That's right. And so that's a perfect segue. That's what I was trying to. By the way, my friend is not Jewish; he's Christian. So you talk
about your friend who flew the flag.
Yes, he's Christian. Yeah, in his very Christian neighborhood, and everyone is coming by. They're not Jews, and so that's. I always have to remind myself, because I don't live there. I live in places where there are a lot more Jews who live in a lot more close contact with other communities that don't that and there's friction. That remember that there's still tens of millions at least of truly fantastic Americans, whether they are overtly Christian believers or just their baseline morality, their normalcy is predicated on Western civilization, i.e. what we've come to call Judeo-Christian, that are just decent. But this is the last stand, really, and Israel's kind of... Anyway, let's get back to the premise of today. So I said to him, no, it's not that Josh Shapiro's problem was because he was pro-Israel when he had his bar mitzvah or when he was 20. It's nothing to do with his political stance, just the way when people come up to me, as they have for decades, because they wear a yarmulke, and just attack me about something Israel does or doesn't do without any thought that I might not have a political theory about Israel. Or, by the way, I'm not Israeli, I'm an American. I mean, like, I am no less American than you are, my friend, so stop saying your country to me. All right? But I said, no, it's not that the people who run today's Democrat Party, I'm not talking about the base who's, that they don't want Jews involved. And she thought, shocking. What do you mean? Why wouldn't they want the votes, et cetera? I said, okay, it's simple. This is an agglomeration of resentment groups. It's the victimhood sweepstakes, and they're constantly clashing with each other. And that defines today's Democrats, which is why when you compare the way Democrat states are run to, and I'm not even talking Republican, plenty to criticize there, but let's talk about Democrats. The way Democrat states run to non-Democrat states, it's like third world versus first world, or Democrat cities, large Democrat cities to large Republican run cities, or non-Democrat cities, again, third world, first world. Look at it's very easy for us to look, even on temporally, look at the flip between Democrat, non-Democrat, Democrat, which say Obama, Trump, Biden. And you see the difference on the world stage between a world where like peace is breaking out all over in the most shocking ways, and we're literally in the middle of conflagrations that look like World War III. Why? Because they have no governing philosophy that makes sense. It is all about the agenda is set by the angriest, loudest group of victims. Now, to finish the thought, we already saw this. Who are the mainstream that they brought in over the past few election cycles? The Women's March, Jews not wanted. BLM, Jews not wanted. DSA, Jews not wanted. Jews are the oppressor class. DEI would, every minority has except for the Jews, they don't qualify. So we are not just an avatar for, let's say, white Christian America. We're this like little footnote on top of everything, where this is the way anti-Semitism has been for millennia.
And let's be clear, folks. Yeah. By the way, Jeff and I have lived very privileged lives in a cosmic sense. He's a graduate of Yale Law School. I have an Ivy League degree and a less fancy law degree, but the system works for us.
Wait. I don't feel privileged. I disagree. I don't feel privileged. I had to overcome the inherent bias of there's a limited number of Jews they allow into these classes. That's not privilege.
Okay, we can have that discussion. Yeah. But the point I want to make is that what we are not looking for,
I'm not a victim.
Is not sympathy. We do not wish to be admitted into the victim club.
That's true. That's
the point.
Yeah, that's right. I'm not interested in anybody's sympathy, but I will not sit quietly while you attack me and my family and my people and say, take it because you have white privilege or you have more privilege, you got to shut up. And I actually was on Fox and said that about Ilhan Omar when she attacked a Jew and said he's a white supremacist. And that took off immediately because Trump tweeted it and other people. And it's like, forget about the criticism of this guy. Maybe this guy's a bad guy. I have no opinion one way or the other. That wasn't what I was talking about. But the narrative that a Jew has white privilege and therefore can't speak out, that the point of that was to shut us up. So no, you and I, we're not interested in being victims, but we're also not interested in being shut up.
Well, and that would be quite a task.
Right. So anyway, my point is that when he's saying logically, why would they want to chase away any votes, right? And the answer is, well, logically, why would LGBTQ not want to have Jews at gay pride parades? Why would Women's March not want to have Jews there? Why would BLM say we don't want your alliance? And by the way, plenty of Jews aren't white. Plenty of Jews are, by their standards, black. They don't want them there. The answer is they literally don't want us in the room with them because, again, there is the thing about anti-Semitism is it always we're too rich, we're too poor, we're too successful, we're too unsuccessful, we assimilate too much, we're too segregated. Whatever the excuse is, it's perfect for this Venn diagram. The only thing they can agree on is get the Jews gone, and that's what I think happened with Josh Shapiro.
In other words, it wouldn't have mattered. I wish I had set this up in adequate time, but you and I kind of did this on the fly.
Right.
Famous tweet that I riffed on earlier today and got kind of went viral. Josh Shapiro has scrubbed his Wikipedia page of his past involvement with the IDF, and he's downplaying his pro-Israel views because there was a lot of noise suggesting that he was going to be the vice presidential nominee. And this seemed to have many merits politically to it. Why not balance out the appearance that Kamala Harris is part of the fringe left in the Democratic Party by bringing in a relative moderate? And Pennsylvania Democrats tend to be rather moderate. And why not also pay tribute to the considerable Jewish involvement, commitment to, and membership in the Democratic Party? Because right now there's nothing about Kamala Harris. Please don't tell me about her husband. That isn't going to do it. There's not much to recommend her to that critical, not as large as other constituencies, but still very important constituency.
Well, they love the money. It's a big donor constituency to Democrats.
Well, constituency is what is a euphemism.
Okay, I'm being clear. I'm not complicated. I'm easy.
Involvement in, support of, that's what I was getting at.
Yeah.
Jews give a lot of money to Democrats.
All about the Benjamins. That's what Ilhan Omar said, because that's exactly what they're raised on. That's all.
And also, Pennsylvania is a damned important state.
Yes.
So we saw prior to the announcement that was supposed to be yesterday, and which was, that there was supposedly an accidental release of what seemed to be the official Shapiro media blitz, pre-recorded stuff. And there are two theories about this, neither of which involves an accident. One is that someone in the Shapiro party wanted to nail it down. And the other one is someone in the anti-Shapiro party wanted to
blow it up,
sort of gin up the pressure that was going to come from the hard left before any announcement was made. And indeed, the final result is that it wasn't Shapiro. But during the pendency of the period, during the in this in-between period when it really looked like it was Shapiro, there were a lot of concerns among Republicans because it seemed like a very politically astute move. One concern that I voiced in on a podcast last week, and which I saw someone else tweet today, which was, isn't there some concern that Shapiro is going to, standing next to Harris, really accentuate how dumb she is? But he seemed to be really willing to neuter himself in as many ways as possible to get this gig. I don't know what's inside a man's heart. I'm sure it's good. I mean, it's really being vice president. It's not a great job unless you get appointed as president. which is, kind of what Kamala Harris believes is going to happen for her. Everyone after the switch over to walls, do we supposed to say walls?
I don't know, walls.
Right. Everyone knew that this was all right. Everyone knew that Shapiro was going to be a problem, because the problem that it solves is the essential problem that Jeff was talking about in the first 2 minutes of what the Democratic Party is. It is a grievance mill. It is a collation of grievances in which the Jews really have no meaningful role anymore, because we don't really have those kind of grievances anymore.
So can I just also say something? I want to make clear, because I don't want anyone to think that I'm saying that there was no reason to not choose Josh Shapiro other than that he's Jewish. I was just saying it was always a non-starter, because this is the truth of where the leadership, the most important leaders of the coalition that make up today's Democrats are. That's what I'm saying. They don't want the Jews to be in the room. They resent the Jews being in the room. That doesn't mean the base. That doesn't mean et cetera, et cetera. It just means you got that. So I'm saying it was a non-starter. And by the way, Walsh, of course, is saying, what do you mean? I'm not anti-Israel. I'm pro-Israel. It's like, yeah, but that really was never the point. The point is you're not a Jew. And honestly, the other reason that they're doing this, your point that makes her look not bright. I mean, she can't help not.
I'm speaking clearly.
Yeah, she's not particularly bright, but what are they going to do? Honestly, I mean, it doesn't make a difference what.
Well, but they did. They found the one guy.
Find somebody dumber than her. I mean, she just is incapable of completing a thought. So, but they found a guy. What they wanted, though, it seems to me, because they're open about it. Just like Biden said, he wanted to find someone who fits certain identity models. Well, they want to balance that identity model with, a middle-aged or older white guy. And to them, that gives reassurance to a lot of America who haven't bought into the rest of this. But again, I'm just saying not a Jew. And I will contrast this. I wrote a piece a while back, you may have seen, about Joe Lieberman, because it wasn't really that long ago. It wasn't 100 years ago. And this is just a little inside story. So I was working on the Bush campaign, but I had a friend on the the Gore campaign, who called me up and he said, we are going to deny that this ever happened, but I have to ask you this. We did a poll. Would you vote for a Jew to be president or vice president of the United States? A national poll. And something like 40-something% of America said they would. And then someone advised them to change that poll, because Lieberman was one of the 3 or 4 finalists, and add the word religious. Would you vote for a religious Jew to be president, vice president? And the number shot up to like 80%. He said, what is that? So I explained, without getting into too many details, when you say a Jew, most people think, a progressive, right? They're in politics. But when you say religious Jew, I mean, I was literally getting calls from friends of mine in the Bible Belt saying, wow, if he's like you, I'm voting for him. Or it's like, he's a great guy, but he's domestically, he's pretty much on the left. That sea change where they were concerned about the politics, but not the identity, is now flipped, where it's the identity is the disqualifier.
Jeff and I really wanted to do a quickie tonight.
Yeah.
And I'm already beginning this is the beginning of the outro. We want to be really, really clear about this, because we believe we are the most effective spokesman for this in the world. Or we were both available and thought it was a great idea. The people, the sea change that Jeff is referring to is that we're now in a world where, notwithstanding the denial of this fact by the majority of Jews in the country who still identify as Democrats, the Democratic Party has no room for advancement, certainly for candidates and for Jews. Josh Shapiro was not president of the Zionist world
Right.
the VOA, okay, Zionist Organization of America. As far as I know, he did stuff when he was a kid and went to Israel, and that was his favorite team.
Someone said to me, it's like going to space camp and claiming you're a NASA astronaut. He went to some camp.
Exactly. It's not a thing, and I don't hold it against him.
No.
As we say in Yiddish, here or there, it doesn't really make a big difference. The point is, he was Josh Shapiro, and in Dearborn, they know what that means. It's personal.
Yeah.
It's ethnic. It's bigotry.
Yeah.
And that's the world we're living in now. It's not the world that Jeff and I grew up in.
No.
Yeah, there was always bigotry. We know that, as Jeff was saying before. Don't tell me that we haven't faced anything. Hey, we all have stories.
Yeah.
But the injection of a significant Muslim component, immigrant component. It's an ethnic national.
Also socialism, right? It's the whole panoply.
Important point. Let's be clear. Socialism has always been anti-Semitic.
Yes.
It doesn't matter what your grandpa in the Bund thought. Remember, the Bund, the Jewish Labor Bund, which my grandparents were members of, was thrown out of the Socialist International by Lenin.
There you go. Exactly what we're seeing now. That's a perfect example.
And all the Bolsheviks that you hear about from those anonymous basement Nazis who they claim, made the Ukrainian famine, every one of them was lined up against the wall and shot.
That's right.
By Stalin. The Jews controlled nothing in socialism. The Jews have always represented a hated class because just like Americans, just like the American middle class, they represent stability,
yes,
commercial success, conventional morality,
yes,
families,
exactly,
all the things they want to destroy.
Exactly.
That's your Harris Walls ticket, ladies and gentlemen.
100%.
I think I think we're finished.
Ron, this was great. I don't know if anyone else did, but I think it was an important point to make.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us tonight. And let me just urge you once again, if you don't already, a lot of people are watching this on Twitter. I'm sure far more than on YouTube, because if there's one thing we know on YouTube, nothing happens for me. But there, see, I put the banner back on, and I've got 2 minutes to spare. Jeff Ballabon, one of my best friends, and maybe we'll do this again sometime soon. Thanks, guys. Have an incredible night.